Hey, Moon Magic Super Souls, welcome to your Moon Month energy update and happy Samhain if you are in the Northern Hemisphere and happy Beltane if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. I am recording on this day. It feels like the energy is very appropriate. We have a new moon tomorrow in Scorpio, and so a new moon month is starting. Every moon month begins with a new moon. Welcome to all of you who are returning to the channel, and welcome to anyone new. So I have a lot to share with you today, and the format of today's moon month energy update, is going to be a little bit different. So it'd be great to hear how you find this. Rather than just bringing up slides and talking you through the energy, in a moment I'm actually going to screen share, bring up a chart, and we're literally going to flick day by day through the month, and you can see what the moon is doing. And I mean, I write about the moon in terms of energy. You know, is the energy flowing? Is it discordant? What's the moon? Where is the moon? And what sign is she in? What moon phase is she in? How is the incoming energy going to be affecting us? And when she tunes in with other planetary collaborations and connections, how is she either, adding power and weight to those energies, and how is she actually sometimes softening those energies? So we're going to literally go through the moon month so you can really see how the energy flow works, which I hope is going to be really helpful for you guys in terms of actually really learning how to work with the lunar energy. You know, she is our satellite. She is with us all the time. Very, very interesting, actually. I found out scientifically that actually the moon is a stabilizing influence. If we didn't have our beautiful moon and her magnetic pull, we would apparently, as an Earth, just spiral off into the universe. The only reason we stay in our orbit around the sun, and the sun gives us life, we can't operate without sunlight, and the only reason we stay in the sun's orbit is because of the moon. Her magnetic pull is strong enough to keep us in a particular alignment, which I find quite extraordinary and mind-blowing in a concept, I suppose, because actually, for me, learning to listen to the moon has been really life-changing. I guess I've come to see her as like my mentor. You know, her energy helps me to navigate life with greater awareness, with greater presence, really. And, you know, when things are a little bit heated up, or there's tension, or, you know, whatever is happening, or when things are just flowing, if I check in with the moon, I'll find that the energy is really, it's kind of right. The astrological information is absolutely right for what I'm feeling. And the moon, because she moves very quickly, is really influencing us on a daily basis. So for me, she's a very steadying influence. It's like having an astrological mentor who kind of guides me as to when to move forward quickly, when to seize the moment, when to just get still and just kind of practice the art of allowing. And so actually discovering that scientifically she really does keep the earth on track. I just found that the sort of symbolism of that was remarkable, because she certainly keeps me on track. So great respect to our grandmother moon. Anyway, let's move on to the energy of the month. I've got a lot to share with you, and I'll be putting quite a few links into the description below, and also in the comment as well. I always post a comment because there's some fabulous stuff out there that you might want to tune into, other people's sites, other people's information. So I'm going to make sure that I don't miss anything. I've got a whole list here that I will let you know about. Okay. So I think what I'll do is screen share and bring up the new moon chart. I should be able to do that. Okay, so this is the chart for the new moon. This is the 1st of November, depending on where you are on our beautiful planet. I think it's pretty much the first everywhere, except for in Auckland, actually. I'm just going to bring some timings on the screen for you. Now, the reason we look at timings with a new moon is because a new moon is associated with writing wishes and intentions. And the best time to write your wishes and intentions is from the exact point of the new moon and for the 8 hours following. Now, the reason we do this is because the sun and the moon come together at a new moon. It's why we can't really see the moon, because we're sort of blinded by the sun unless it's an eclipse, and that's another sort of affair really. But with a new moon, the sun and the moon sit together, and it's like a sacred marriage. It's a divine connection between the divine masculine of the sun and the divine feminine of the moon. So it's a point of conception, it's a new beginning. And so we harness the energy of this new beginning to enhance our wishes and our intentions. When we are working with the moon, we are looking at her moon phase, which is the new moon on this day, and the energy of that and what that means. And then we are also looking at the sign that she's in, which is in Scorpio today. And we also tend to look at some of the other sort of planetary dynamics that are going on that may be influencing the lunar energy at that moment in time. And you'll see as we move through the moon month that when she passes some of the other planets, she'll be tuning into some of the other dynamics that are taking place. So on the day of the new moon, we do have some quite strong dynamics overall that are happening. And some of them are very, very significant, such as this sort of Pluto over here sitting opposite Mars, which I will touch base with. And so we're kind of looking at the overall energy flow, because we're always working with energy when we work with the moon. And then we are looking at how we can use the influence of the energy of the moon to assist us in navigating our life from a position of empowerment, really, mindful empowerment, mindful awareness. So this is a great day to set wishes and intentions. And if we look at the overall dynamics that are taking place, the moon and the sun sitting together are in a trine to Saturn. And a trine is a very flowing sort of happy, harmonious connection. When we look at a chart, I know some of you are astrologers, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you're brand new to astrology, the red lines are representing some of the more difficult, discordant flows of energy between the different planets, and the greeny blue lines here are representing the very harmonious flowing energies. So what we have today is a very flowing energy between the moon and the sun here and Saturn. Saturn is known as Father Time, Father Karma. Saturn is also in retrograde at the moment, but Saturn is actually going to station direct on the 15th of November of this month. So if you have actually been feeling like things in your world are not moving forwards, or they felt very stuck, or almost as if the structures of the world are not working for you, you may find that there is a shift this month around the 15th, or perhaps after the 15th, when Saturn stands still and moves into a forward motion. But you could harness this energy to write new moon wishes and intentions that ask for you to easily move forwards, for blocks to be removed, for structures, for restructuring to take place that really works for you. And to ask for this to happen easily. We're always aligning our wishes and our intentions with the energy of the day. Because the new moon is in Scorpio, Scorpio can take us into a deep dive. Scorpio shows us often unconscious elements of our world that we maybe need to look at in order to sometimes find resolution and progress. And this is now where I'm going to talk about this very strong dynamic here between Pluto over here and Mars. This is very much dominating the sort of what I would call the global energy at the moment. They are both at 29 degrees. And this is very, very strong. And Mars is very fiery, very go-getting, very passionate, very assertive, but can bring out anger in people. Pluto is about rebirth. And my very dear friend Ariel Gutman, who's an amazing astrologer, I'll put a link to her site actually in the description box below for you, anyone wanting to check out her work. She described Pluto as, the demolition team have arrived. So put on your hard hats, because change is here. For me, it's like the energy of the tower in the tarot. We're looking at rebirth. The old is out and the new is coming in. And this is really sort of exaggerated by the fact that this is the 29th degree that they're sitting in. When a planet sits in a 29th degree, they are literally about to move from one sign into the next. And it's known as, I think it's called the anaretic degree. But it's like a critical degree point. The 29th degree is sort of like, it's our last opportunity to get to grips with the lessons that a particular planet has brought us in a particular sign through their journey through a sign. If you think about the planets as being our great teachers, our mentors. I spoke at the beginning of the video about the moon being my mentor, I feel, my guide. She keeps me on track in a much more what I would call localized way. The outer planets sort of bring us global learning curves, really. So this is the last chance for Pluto, the energy of transformation, rebirth, to be kind of implemented in the sign of Capricorn. So the really, big stuff is being challenged and changed, global structures. And so we're seeing a lot of challenge. This is really added to by the Mars energy at the moment. In a personal way, if there is anything coming up in your, what I would call from your past, from your history, in your deep unconscious world, anything that is connected to, I would also say things like genetic history. If you are somebody who is, you feel like you're processing almost any element of what I would call genetic trauma, we know science has shown us that trauma is inherited. If trauma has not been resolved successfully, it's sort of passed on genetically to the next generation. If you feel you are dealing with anything like this, if past life stuff is surfacing for you, it's sort of a really amazing opportunity to find a resolution, to release and to move forwards. Because when Pluto moves into Aquarius, which is actually this month on the 19th, in fact, this is sort of the 0 degrees, the magical moment when the new opens up for us. So if you are struggling with any unconscious patterns or any limiting beliefs and stuff, internal structures that are holding you back, or patterns that you have developed during your childhood that just you haven't yet released them, or they've come back up and you thought, wow, I thought I'd sorted that years ago and here it is again. Now is the opportunity to find resolution, to release and to let go. And this is a month that we can really utilize the energy and do this. This is a time to use this new moon energy to set wishes and intentions that support that process. Because the moon is sitting in Scorpio. This is a new moon in Scorpio, which aligns with the energy of Pluto. Pluto rules Scorpio. So I hope this is helpful in understanding how we use this lunar energy. Now, there's one last thing I want to touch base on in this new moon chart before we move to the next moon phase. And that is actually a 6-pointed star. A fabulous astrologer called Maurice Fernandez, which actually Ariel Gutman introduced me to his work. I'm on his email list, and he sent out a beautiful chart that also incorporated some of the asteroid goddesses. And actually, on the day of this new moon, there is actually a 6-pointed star within the collaborations, the planetary collaborations. I actually emailed him to ask if I could share his chart. I haven't heard back from him, and therefore I won't share his material within this video, but I will put a link to his website below. A 6-pointed star is about hope. It's the Star of David. So there is an energy here where anything that you are struggling with unconsciously, or feeling as if it's been stuck, or structures are changing and you're not quite sure, how to move forwards, what to do next. The energy today is really primed to support that. So even though it's not without tension, there is an underlying layer of hope integrated into the energetics today. I hope actually to hear back from Maurice, but yeah, I will share his website because his work is absolutely fantastic, and you might want to check out, if you're interested in astrology, you might want to check out some of his podcasts and the various things that he writes and does. So working with the moon, working with the lunar energy, the moon then moves from her new moon position into what we call her waxing crescent phase. So basically what we see in the sky, if we see her, is a very, very tiny little moon that gradually gets bigger and bigger and bigger until we get to what we call the first quarter point. And when she reaches her first quarter, that's when we almost see like a half moon in the sky. So she will be moving through Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and into Aquarius. What that means is that she is going to pass Mercury here, she'll pass Venus, and she'll also pass that very powerful point of Pluto sitting opposite Mars, although I think Mars may well have moved a little bit by then. Let's move on day by day to watch her movement. So you can see that she is moving through Scorpio as we go in one day. This is how fast the moon moves. Then she passes Mercury and moves into Sagittarius. Now it's interesting, if we just pause and have a look at the energy here, if we think about the lunar energy as being influenced not only by the moon phase that she's in, so the waxing crescent moon, she's starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but she's still quite small, so the energy is relatively gentle. It's all about getting going. I always think the first sort of crescent moon, the waxing crescent, is a bit like a car pulling out of a parking lot. You're just getting going, you're starting your journey. And so she's going to pass Mercury. As she passes Mercury, we can see Mercury is actually trining the Mars energy here, also trining the North Node. Now, if we go back a day, if I just show you this dynamic, very interesting. As the moon approaches Mercury, Mercury is actually opposite Uranus. Uranus is the great awakener, the bringer of sudden happenings. Mercury is all about communication. So as the moon passes this dynamic, and we then see Mercury trining, and indeed the moon trining this North Node. The North Nodes are all about karmic happenings, destiny, moving forwards. This does create a dynamic where, passing Mercury, we might see the opportunity for sudden, unexpected communications. They could actually help to shift something of those unconscious patterns that could be arising as the moon moves through Scorpio to a place of great hope and great optimism and opportunity, openings, windows of opportunity to help to shift things as the moon moves into the energy of Sagittarius, which is much more expansive. Venus is currently sitting opposite Jupiter. The moon is going to pass Venus, and as the moon begins to approach Venus here, we could say maybe there will be some interesting conversations happening with, there might be dynamics around your relationships, because Venus is all about relationships. Likewise, balance. There may be certain elements of your world that are either in balance or out of balance that are called to your attention. Are there elements within your relationships where you're giving more than you're receiving? It will be interesting to see how this energy influences you. But it's all about getting going and initiating changes. We can see as the moon then begins to progress. Now we have a slightly stronger dynamic here on the 5th, where the moon has passed Venus, but she's squaring Neptune. Neptune is heading into that really important sort of end of sign degree point. She's not yet at, or he is not yet at the 29th degree, but nevertheless moving into this energy of, the final opportunity to resolve things before moving into a new sign. And so the moon squaring, a square can be a little bit more discordant. When the moon is squaring Neptune, we could see the lower energetics of Neptune coming through. The lower energetics of Neptune can be that we feel a bit confused, or we feel as though the wool has been pulled over our eyes, or we pull the wool over our own eyes. In reality, Neptune can also bring us great spiritual enlightenment. So it's always, when we're working with energy, we look at the higher vibration of the energy, and we look at the lower vibration of the energy, and then we think about how we can lean into that higher vibrational space of learning and opportunity. So this is a time to face any challenges from a position of, spiritual awareness. Very, very interesting. There may be quite strong dynamics today with the lunar energy bringing in and connecting into this energy of Neptune. But there's still always opportunity to use the energy. I constantly say to people, use the energy, don't let the energy use you. Now the moon is then going to move into Capricorn, lovely earthy Capricorn, squaring actually Lilith and the nodes. Lilith's story is all about injustice. So, again, if there's anything that feels out of balance, unfair in your world, it might come to your attention, but you can do something with this. And in earthy Capricorn, with the Capricornian energy and the moon passing through that influence, you can be really practical and pragmatic about making changes in your world, where you're using the energy and not letting the energy use you. The moon is then going to join Pluto and pass Pluto, past this Pluto-Mars dynamic, although we can see Mars is moving forwards a little bit, but there's still quite a strength of connection. So we see the moon moving through. Interesting, as the moon passes the demolition team here and the planet of rebirth, she then trines very favourably the South Node and Lilith. Lilith's story is all about injustice and putting wrongs to right. So because this is such a flowing energy, there may be opportunity to really kind of rebirth and transform areas of your life that are, perhaps haven't been working terribly well. So, whatever is shown to you in this waxing crescent moon phase, we're seeing real opportunities emerging. Now, when the moon reaches this point in time, I'm just actually going to click on this next chart, which is the first quarter. There we go. So the first quarter moon is when the waxing crescent moon phase is ending. The moon is now in Aquarius. The first quarter is always a square between the sun and the moon, and we see the moon in the sky as literally looking like a half moon. The energy of working with the first quarter is that we're very often shown what we need to step up into or overcome in order to move forwards. And the first quarter, this often comes in sort of external circumstances. That's kind of how we work with that energy. So it's a really good day to sort of stand still and get focused and, become aware of what you need to do, what needs to be transformed, what are you being shown in order to move things forwards. We can see there's a trine here to Jupiter, so there's a real opportunity to expand and move things forwards in terms of what you are seeing, whatever challenges arise. It could be a very straightforward way forwards, or it could be something that's a little more challenging, but whatever you are shown on this day, in this moment, with the influence of Aquarius, it may be that you are shown a higher-minded solution to any kind of challenge in your life that needs to be moved forwards. I always think the first quarter moon is a great day to stand still and to take stillness breaks. The moon then moves into her waxing gibbous phase. Now, this is an interesting moon phase because the energy heats up. Basically, we're moving from this first quarter position to the point where she reaches her fullest, to the full moon. And I think we all know that full moons can be very, very powerful. So she's going to pass through, she will pass through Aquarius. The full moon is actually in Taurus. So she's going to pass through Aquarius, through Pisces, through Aries, and then into Taurus. Now that means she's going to pass Saturn over here. She's going to pass Neptune and the North Node, and she's also going to pass Chiron and any of the dynamics that they are tuned in with. This is a powerful cluster of sort of planetary alignments. These are big energies. So let's move the moon forwards day by day. Here we see her moving across that point from Aquarius into Pisces. And she's actually quite harmoniously connected to Venus up here. Let's see her move past Saturn. Now, when she passes Saturn, she's actually going to be squaring Mercury. And at this point, we are about to move into the Mercury retrograde shadow period. Mercury actually moves into retrograde on the 26th of November. And the retrograde shadow period, the shadow period is basically like it's a couple of weeks before Mercury moves into retrograde stations direct and moves into retrograde. During a shadow period, we begin to feel the influence of the Mercury retrograde energy. Retrograde energy is not here to cause us distress. It's here to slow us down with purpose. And I sort of say this because I know how frustrating it can feel when there are so many hiccups, roadblocks, diversions, delays. Be prepared, back up all your computer systems and, recognize that there could be delays, but also recognize there's a higher purpose. When Mercury is in retrograde, we are being asked to slow down, and it's not actually natural for any of us to be moving fast forward all of the time. That's not how life really is. It's not how life works at its best. And Mercury in retrograde slows us down, I think, gets us to look at life through a different lens. We also sometimes find that things come up from our past. They're coming up with purpose. We're revisiting things because we need to review and evaluate. So again, use the energy, don't let the energy use you. Passing Saturn, anything that needs restructuring. Saturn is in retrograde still, about to station direct. So, use the energy well. The moon is building, so it's like there's energy available to us to actually make things happen, okay? And as the moon is moving through deeply spiritual Pisces, you may actually get some really good spiritual downloads as to what to do and how to move forwards. So always hold that higher energetic, and I think try and take stillness breaks through this period, because these are big dynamics. When the moon passes Saturn, when the moon passes Neptune and the nodes, try to take stillness breaks where you can just really center yourself and listen to what you're being shown, especially as we move into that retrograde shadow of Mercury. Let's move the moon forwards. We can see that she passes Neptune. Interestingly, as she passes Neptune, she's squaring Venus. Now, relationships, balance, harmony are all coming forth, and interesting, Venus is sitting at a 0-degree point, a magical 0-degree point of moving into the new sign of her new sign of Capricorn here. So if there's any discordant energy in any of your relationships, try to lean into that higher energetic and ask for guidance, because the moon is very shortly going to pass the North Node here. Let's move her forwards. As she passes the North Node, I might have to do a few hours less actually here. Let's go for 8 hours. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. She's going to square Lilith over here. And prior to that, she'll be passing the North Node. Not squaring, opposite. She'll be passing the North Node, and she will then be opposite the South Node. And then she'll move into opposition to Lilith. Lilith's story is all about injustice. And so, if unfairness. So passing Neptune and the nodes and opposite Lilith, this could be quite a time when we could feel quite het up, to be honest. The energy is building. The moon is moving towards her fullest. The purpose of this is to, let me bring that back again. I think that's where we were. Let me bring this to one day rather than an hour. The purpose of this energy is to create healing. The moon is going to pass Chiron as well. And Chiron is the wounded healer. So I kind of feel this could be quite an intense period, actually. The moon's energy is gathering and building to her fullest. Let's bring up the full moon chart, actually. Okay, here we go. So the moon is gathering, building to her fullest, and there's always a build-up within this kind of moon phase. She's passing these great big energies and, opposing, some sort of sense of injustice, squaring, energy around relationships. So there could genuinely be some discordant energy. But if you're using this energy, you're going to harness it. You're going to be mindfully contemplating, whatever shows up, what you can do about it, what you can do to move this forwards, what you can do to heal, really. This is the purpose of these energies. When we get to the full moon, the moon is sitting with Uranus. This is mind-blowingly dynamic. This full moon in Taurus, I just want to say, expect the unexpected. A full moon will always illuminate things. Things could happen very suddenly, very quickly, very unexpectedly. The energy of Uranus is bringing, the higher energetic of Uranus, let's put it that way, is bringing the energy of awakening, bringing higher minded solutions. But they could come in quite unexpected and disruptive ways. So this is a pretty powerful day. I'm just going to bring up the timings onto the screen for you. Now, my reason for bringing up the timings is particularly because a full moon energy is powerful and it often affects us emotionally. When the moon reaches that point of fullness, you can literally feel the energy sort of almost break open. If you are interested or passionate about using ceremony, given the kind of build-up that we have been having, where the moon has passed these, big planetary energies, whatever takes place and whatever you're shown at the full moon, you can use this absolute point of fullness as a release point. You can use it as a healing point to let go. It's a really great time to be doing letting go ceremonies. It's really, really ideal energy to be doing this in. And also with a view to receiving illumination of higher awareness from the Uranus energy, openings that show you what to do next, higher minded solutions. So very, very powerful full moon, but whatever you're shown, it's going to be trying to help you to walk that higher road, that higher pathway. The moon then moves into what we call her disseminating, gibbous phase. So she's now reached her fullest and she's now going to start to get smaller as we see her in the sky. She's going to be moving through Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and then into Leo. So we're going to see her travel through those energies, those influences, and then she will get to her last quarter position. I think she's actually literally on the cusp of Leo and Virgo for that last quarter position. So let's move her along so you can see how she journeys through. So she's moving into Gemini. Wonderful opportunity actually with the moon in Gemini to really look at things from all angles. And she's actually going to pass Jupiter, which means that she is able to, you're able to use the energy of Jupiter to expand your perspectives, to particularly see things from all sides of the story. The moon and Jupiter will at some point be opposite Mercury here. This is actually on the 17th. Now Mercury has now stationed direct, or is heading, well I say that no, Mercury stations direct on the 26th. It's Saturn has now stationed direct. But Mercury is very much in the shadow period of retrograde. So there's opportunity here to review, to see things from every angle, and to then expand and know what you're going to do on the basis of that. Now we can actually see here that the moon passes opposite Venus, and we can see a big square here connecting with the nodes and with Lilith. This is quite punchy energy actually. Also Mercury is opposite Jupiter at this moment in time. The Sun is opposite Uranus. So even though the energy of the moon during the waning gibbous period is generally steady, this might get a bit more hectic and a bit more fast-paced. Okay, so just be mindful of this and remember that whatever we are being shown, we're being shown it in order to progress, to process what needs to be processed and to move forwards and evolve. Particularly given that the moon is in lovely nurturing Cancer, there is opportunity to use this Cancer influence and bring understanding and compassion into any situations that show up at this time. The moon then aligns with Mars. Mars is a very fiery, punchy energy. So even though the moon is steadying in this moon phase, they're actually trining the nodes as well, the north node, sextiling the south node. So because the trine and the sextile are actually very flowing, very lovely energies, I think there's opportunity here to actually move something forwards. This is around the 20th. The moon is then going to reach her last quarter position. So let me just bring that up in the exact chart for you. Now, when the moon is in her last quarter position, she is sitting on this cusp here between Leo and Virgo. Something I want to bring to your attention here actually is that there is what we call a void of course period, a very long one. It's a 10-hour void of course period. Now, a void of course period is when the moon moves from one zodiac sign to the other. So she's no longer being influenced by any particular sign. When she moves from Leo and into Virgo at this last quarter position, there's a 10-hour void of course period. Now, this can feel very liberating, or it can leave you feeling a little bit out at sea. It depends what's going on in your own personal circumstances. But a last quarter moon is a point of evaluation. So at both quarters, the sun and the moon are squaring each other. But it's an energy of evaluation and review. And because of this void of course period, how it affects you personally will be interesting, but be conscious of it. And with the moon moving from sort of the energy of Leo into the energy of Virgo, because a last quarter invites us to review, and it tends to be an internal review. The first quarter is much more external, whereas the last quarter is much more internal. That shift from Leo, which is a much more outgoing energy, to Virgo, where we can really pay attention to the details and be diligent. I think there's a real opportunity here to review and evaluate in terms of your own self-empowerment. What can you actually do? What do you need to attend to? What details do you need to attend to be able to kind of continue to move your manifestations forwards? That's the kind of energy as we shift, as the moon shifts from Leo into Virgo at this last quarter position. The moon is then going to move into her balsamic or waning phase. And this is going to be quite interesting because as she moves through this phase, she's actually going to be opposing all of these planets over here, those big players. We've got Saturn here. She's then going to be opposing Neptune here. She's then going to be opposing the North Node whilst sitting with the South Node and Lilith. She's then going to be opposing Chiron. So the energy may not be entirely easy, but if you think about it in terms of the signs that she's flowing through, so she's going to be passing through Virgo, which is all about paying attention to the details. This is using the energy to your very best advantage. She's then going to be passing through Libra, which will be all about finding balance. She's then going to pass through Scorpio, which will help us to see if there's any unconscious or internal patterns that we need to address in order to move forwards. So there's a very distinct flow of energy. And although it's, there's some discordant energy basically with the moon moving in opposition to all of these planets at the same time, there is huge opportunity in each of the signs. And then she moves opposite Uranus and Uranus, this opposition here in Scorpio. Unconscious patterns can be brought to the surface in order to change. She's then going to shift into Sagittarius, which has a more expansive energy, where the energy is aligning with kind of an opportunity to find resolution. And because we're then going to get to the next new moon, which is a whole new moon cycle and a whole new opportunity to set new moon wishes and intentions and embrace a whole new moon month of opportunity, I think during this last waning crescent phase, we may be shown some stuff that's difficult, but do you know what? There's also the energy of finding resolution. And because the lunar energy is slowing down and diminishing, I think the lunar energy will actually soften some of these dynamics. So it's going to be a very interesting end to the month when I really think there should be, although strong energy, real opportunity to gain traction and to kind of find resolution and find solutions. And remember, because Mercury will, of course, be in retrograde, remember that any delays and any hiccups are arriving with purpose. Let me bring myself back onto the screen here. Beautiful souls, I hope that you have enjoyed looking at the lunar energy through a different lens, actually, rather than me just reading out slides. You know, I hope it helps to really see how we can use the energy of the individual zodiac signs and be aware of the energy of the lunar energy, actually, when she collaborates with the energies of other planetary alignments, as to how we can sort of utilize this energy to our very best advantage. Now, do give me feedback. It's really, really helpful for me to know in the comments if this is working for you. And beautiful souls, thank you so much to all of you who are sort of waiting for the diary, 2025 diary and the new journal. I will bring those up onto the screen for you, actually. They are imminently going to be out. It has just taken so much longer this year because we have various editions coming out. I've been working with the software engineers so that we can produce diaries that actually are completely time relevant to different areas. And the journal has actually been transformed into a permanent workbook and journal rather than having dates for each year. It's a workbook. It's a lunar workbook. It's actually a really beautiful book. I've literally kind of rewritten it. I'm very proud of it. It's a really, really beautiful book. There are some lovely illustrations in it. As soon as they are live, I will make an announcement here on YouTube and I'll let you know. We are making sure there are various ways that you'll be able to purchase the diary. We're using a different distribution route as well as a different printer. They're spiral bound, which you have asked for. So, you know, I've listened to what you've said. And I agree, a spiral bound diary is so much better, but it means I can't use Amazon's print on demand services, which is what I've used before. These are much better quality as well, which is fantastic. We've got a different distribution network, which means you can order from your local bookstore, and that means you don't have to pay postage. We will have a store set up if you don't want to use a bookstore and you want to order online. And you should still be able to also order through Amazon as well. They should be listed on Amazon via the distribution network that we're using. So hopefully they are widely accessible and available in a way that they haven't been before. And we are also creating some ebooks for all sorts of locations across the globe that just carry the information with specific timings. So I'll do an update, and sometime during November I will be doing a webinar showing how to use these tools, because that's actually what they are. You know, a moon diary is a tool, and I'll do a webinar that shows you how to use a moon diary. You know, whether it's mine or someone else's, the information will be relevant to any astrological diary that you use. So hopefully that will be helpful to you as well. Beautiful souls, I'll be posting your all zodiac sign readings today, along with this lunar update for the coming month. Tons and tons of love to you all. Thank you so much for being here, and just blessings to you all. We are living in the most extraordinary times with so much happening, and 2025 and into 2026 is one of the most transformational years that humanity will ever face, actually. Certainly not for thousands of years before us and thousands of years to come. It's phenomenal. So I hope that tools like the diary and the journal will be really, really helpful to you to navigate the extraordinary changes that we are, I think, going to see, or certainly astrologically are predicted. Tons of love, beautiful souls. I will, of course, be doing tons of readings and all sorts of things to assist you on your journey at every step of the way. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press a little bell icon if you want to make sure you never miss anything as soon as I upload it. See you soon. Tons of love.